Hello again, everyone. Trusting that you all had a great Thanksgiving, as I know we did. It made me think about what we've been doing here at Leroy Christian Church in November. We've been counting our blessings. This week we turn to Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 24, where Jesus basically says, don't waste your time storing up for yourselves treasures here on earth, where moth and rust will get a hold of them and destroy those possessions, but spend your time, rather, investing in heavenly treasures. We found out that there were about three things that we need to take away from Jesus' teaching on possessions. Number one, we need to understand his principle on giving. Jesus said that there would be about three things that we would need to either adjust or change in order to understand fully his teaching on giving. One is that the equation would change. Even the Proverbs writer, Solomon, said the same thing in chapter 11, verses 24 through 26, where he basically compared and contrasted the generous man to the stingy man, or the hoarder. And he just shared that the equation would have to change if we wanted to be prospered by God. A second thing that would have to change is the path. Jesus said we need to choose the right path. Paul wrote about that same path in 2 Corinthians 5, where he said, as a people, if we're going to be true followers of the way, we need to live by faith rather than by sight. A third thing Jesus said would need to change is the plan. And the plan is something that we have to have in place if we're going to be in the right place to receive God's blessing. The Apostle Paul also wrote about that in Acts chapter 20, where he talked as the spokesman for the people and said that we need to help the weak. And while we're doing that, we need to remember the words of Jesus, that it is more blessed to give than to receive. A second thing that we need to understand is we need to understand Jesus' teaching on giving. Jesus talked about a couple of things to remember when it comes to his teaching on giving. One is the proper storehouse. The second is the proper perspective. First of all, the proper storehouse seems to be that Jesus is saying that we need to have the right grain bin or the right grain elevator. And no, I know the word in the text is storehouse, but I'm just using that as a modern day example of what he's talking about. We need to understand the right storehouse is the storehouse in heaven. And then as far as perspective, he said that we would need to see this as the Father sees it, and that we need to give in a way that would show our hearts are completely his, so that it is more than just a duty or an obligation. It's a joyful, cheerful part of our worship. And then, of course, the third thing that we see in the text is that we see Jesus' rule on positioning. I love to watch football and basketball games, and especially watching teams come back onto the court or on the field after halftime. It seems like great coaches differentiate themselves from all other coaches by the ones who can make great halftime adjustments. They make the changes, they readjust, they reposition their team for success. And Jesus seems to be saying in this text that most of us need to probably do some readjusting and some repositioning, because our goal is to put ourselves and to put our families and to put our church right underneath the fountain or the faucet of God's blessings. In Luke chapter 21, Jesus closes out another teaching on this whole idea of financial matters, when he and the apostles happen to be situated in a corner of the synagogue where they see an old widow and several other people participating in the offering. The old widow has 2 copper coins that we had here with us in church this past week. And he sees her put that into the offering. He sees several rich people clanging around some gold and silver and things of that nature and putting it into the offering as well. But Jesus observes that this lady gave out of her poverty, gave out of her need. She literally gave everything she had. Whereas the other people that were participating in the offering were sort of giving God a tip because they were giving out of their surplus. And what we were to take away from that whole thing was, not only did she give everything that she had, it was her heart that was being demonstrated there. She was so joyful and so cheerful to worship God in that way. And I hope that that's the biggest thing that we take away as we count our blessings. I hope more than anything, as we give back to God only a small portion of the amount of blessings that He's given us, I hope that we will do it in such a joyful and cheerful way that it will be contagious to others around us. And it will touch people in our community, in our state, in our country, and in our world. God bless you as you continue to give joyfully and cheerfully.